All right. I think we're live now. Good. So welcome. The big news of the day is that Damus for iOS was just approved. It was reviewed and approved by Apple in the App Store, and so there's a lot of people now scrambling and getting on board and learning about Damus and getting to play with Nostr for the first time. And so I've been a fan of Nostr and a user of Damus now for over a month. I think it's a really great example of how an iOS app should be built to have a great experience with how the protocol works. And so I just decided to pop on and help if there's anybody who has questions about how the Damus app works, or just if you're new to Nostr and you wanted to know something about how it works. That's what I'm here for. So hit me in the chat. And I'm here to help and walk through. So if you're new to all of this, Nostr is a protocol that was built by a pseudonym named Fiat Jaff. You can find him on Twitter at Fiat Jaff. And he built it, I think it was about a year and a half ago. And since then, there's been a little bit of activity here and there, a bunch of new clients that were being developed. I think I first ran across Damus. A friend shared it with me, if I recall, it was last May. And kind of, really excited about the possibilities of what this could be, but it was pretty early for any real activity. And then along comes in December, Jack Dorsey, who was the founder of Twitter, made I believe it was a 14 Bitcoin donation to the projects, which I think encompassed both Nostr, the protocol, and Damus, the application client. And so that all happened in December, which brought on a wave of new users who were, excited to play with it and try it out together. And from that, it's been kind of a bunch of new activity popping up each day, a bunch of interesting new accounts coming on, and people to meet and stuff to play with. So it has been it's been a fun little bit, but there's a lot of stuff about Damus that feels very different than if you're accustomed to using a service like Twitter. So the point here is we wanted to make it easy for people to use Nostr and be able to understand about how Damus works. And we can cover any of the topics, any questions that people have around Damus, which you can now get in the App Store. And actually, I should link to it. So let me pull that up. So Damus.io, there's a link. They haven't updated the website yet, so it still says coming soon. But the reality is it's now out in the wild. So I'm going to share that in the chat here, is the link to Damus. And actually, it looks like the App Store link isn't working right now. So what I'm going to do is pop over to the App Store itself and see if I can get a link there. Got the Damus beta linked. The beta's full, it says. So it is a little tricky to actually get the App Store link. Let's see if they've got it. Maybe it's on Twitter, I bet. Yes. All right. Approved. So here I can share out the link to, let's pop up this. All right. There you go. So there's a link if you haven't gotten on Damus already. That's a link that'll get it from the App Store. Again, iOS only, obviously. We're talking about the App Store. And yeah, if you're just arriving, if you have any questions, hit me in the chat. I'm going to just talk through a few of the things that I've been learning as I've been using Damus for about the past month and change. let's see, actually. I'm going to see if I can, yep. I'm going to see if I can get see if we got a screen share here. Can we screen share? How about we go to a window, and what if we share? All right, so you can see Nostr.directory. I'm actually going to pull up a different screen share. Let's screen share on the Damus app itself. All right, can you see that? Let's get the sizing of that a little bit better. All right. So here's the Damus app. And this is actually a Mac OS app that I have. And on it you can see, you know, the each one of these is a note. So you can see where here's a person named Evan said, did someone hug Wallet of Satoshi a bit too hard? I heard that Wallet of Satoshi's been having some tough time or downtime or something, which is kind of surprising given the structure, but you know, it is what it is. But what you can do here is see in Damus, the main thing you should know about is the profile. So you have this as a public key. And so pretty different from Twitter, in that on Twitter you have a username. And a username is unique across the network and it helps you find people, right? So like on Twitter, I'm at DKSF. You can find me really easily if I just tell you those words. But in Damus, because of some of the underpinnings of how doing this in a decentralized way work, there's not the ability to do just a centralized namespace. And so instead, you can generate any public key like this, and that becomes the token that you can broadcast that on Twitter. So you could tweet out that public key. You could send it via a messenger somewhere. You could send it via a Discord form or something, and helps you find the people that are interested to follow you. And so people can follow you, and then you can also search for public keys here. So if you know the public key of somebody, I'm actually going to pull off from, I have a cheat sheet here. So I'm going to show you, my friend Max has a public key. And so if I go to Damus and I hit that search and I paste it in a public key here, I can go to the profile for that person. In here you can see that's how you reach Max. And from here you could follow Max. And so one of the things you want to do when you arrive is you got to find some people to hang out with or have a good experience. So one of the best ways to do that is just show up here, and you can see this is effectively kind of a fire hose of a bunch of people doing stuff. This is 49 seconds ago, 53 seconds ago, 54 seconds ago. You can see in Damus, they actually take Lightning invoices, which is a Bitcoin thing that lets you transmit value between people. So that's pretty cool. You can just send off a Lightning invoice. Here's the Damus account. So this actually is the account for the app on Noster. And again, if you're just joining and you have any questions as somebody who's new to Damus, come by, say hi. Oh, hey, I see Joe Davis in there. Hey, Joe, how's it going? I guess you're already fairly experienced with Damas, I assume. I forget if you were, I know we talked the other day, I forget if you said you were already on it or if you were using a different client. But yeah, so the main features are you've got a home that shows you all of the notes, which are like tweets, but all of the notes from people that you follow. And then you have a DM section where you can DM with people. And then there's the overall kind of fire hose of everybody who says anything. And then there's your notifications. So these would look pretty familiar from from the perspective of anybody who's used social apps like a Twitter. So one interesting thing that you can do in Damus is you can use this lightning feature, which lets you get paid Satoshis or fractions of a Bitcoin by using this lightning icon, and people can pay you from any lightning app that they would like, and they can just send you tips. So a lot of times people go around sending tips to each other. Now I'm showing right now on my Mac OS app, which is not a, the Mac OS app, I don't have a good wallet to show how that works. So if I were using it on iOS, I could show that more easily. But you can see people issue invoices. You can just tap pay, and it's as easy as that to just send, small fractions of Bitcoin right through the internet to this person to receive. And so as new people are streaming on, coming on Damus and learning about it, you can see sort of people say hello in different ways, and you can give them a shaka, which is like liking it. You can reply and say, hey, welcome to Damus. I'm sure you'll enjoy your stay. Actually, and we use a lot of shakas and purple hearts here. So just as if this were on similar to Twitter, you can see that I replied to that. Now it shows up on my profile as my reply. And you can edit your profile. One of the things that you can do while editing your profile is you have to actually store your profile picture on some other server, because Damus doesn't actually manage your data. So I have mine actually served off of Twitter, but I could link any URL here where it could pull my profile picture. And then, and kind of same with banner image. So I also pull the banner image. It happens to be served off Twitter. I might change it and serve it off somewhere else. And then this thing is nice to see is this Bitcoin Lightning tips section. So you can actually specify an address where you can receive tips. And so if anybody uses the tip feature for my profile, they can just send me some sats, 5 or 10 sats here or there. And it's just a fun way to share somebody, share some value, say thank you to somebody for their contributions for what they're making. There's a thing called NIP05 verification. And this is a kind of a bit of a workaround or a way to help people who would want a way to explain to people how to find them. So, right, there's those big kind of nasty keys, these public keys that you have to share around to tell people how to find you on Nostr. So if you're using Damus, you're accessing Nostr. And if you're doing that, you need to access it you need to connect with people through these public keys. But if you have a NIP05 verification, you can actually have a nicer, unique ID on the network. And so dk@stacker.news is my NIP05 verification. So anybody who wants could find me on Damus using that mechanism. Oh, and there's somebody who just said, watching you right now. This is Kylam Raptley. So Kylam, thank you for joining. I'm gonna Shaka, and I'm gonna thanks for joining. Welcome. And let's see. Looks like Kylam Raptley has been around for a while. So if we look back, we can see that even a month ago, Kylam Raptley was there. So my guess is he or she, Kylam, already knows pretty well how to use Damus. And you can see there's a lot of ostrich and purple themed stuff on Damus. So you might notice here this ostrich neck. It's kind of become a little bit of a theme or a meme on Damus to use ostriches everywhere. So that's why I had a little bit of an ostrich face on the cover of this live stream. And there's ostriches everywhere. There's also this Nostr resources thing, which is in the link here. I'm going to see if I can... Actually, that might be a little tricky to pull up the way I have the live streaming set up right now. Let's see if we can do it. If we go to... Okay, how about this? We've got Nostr resources. So Nostr is a protocol that has the power to replace Twitter, Telegram, and other things. And this is the nostr-resources.com website. So it's a good way to, if you're new, it's a good way to sort of get up to speed on how this all works. Actually, I'm going to repost this because I think it's pretty useful to people. So you can read the WTF is Noster. It talks about the design of Noster. It's very basic. There's the clients and the relays. Each user runs a client. Anyone can run a relay. And a relay is just kind of like a server that accepts messages and sends messages. And the messages are signed. So meaning you can verify that it came from it was signed by somebody who controls the private key. As a user, you don't have to worry too much about that because the private keys are managed by your client. So if you're working with a single client, you don't necessarily have to do a lot to try to move away or protect yourself from being controlled by that client. You can just get on and start using it. And then as you get more sophisticated, you can easily take that account and move it out and use it with other clients like web clients and such. But for now, to use Nostr, you need a key and a client. So you download Damus. It'll set you up with a key. Damus will be the client, and then you can connect to a bunch of relays. In those relays are servers. They could be hosted by you or by someone else. And to get updates from people, you can just ask relays, what notes do you have that were signed by these people that I care about? There's a warning, do not paste your private keys into websites, which is a good warning. I have a friend who had pasted his keys into websites and he got pwned. So somebody compromised the keys on the website, and he ended up losing his account, or somebody else ended up getting control of his account, so he didn't want to do that anymore. There's a couple things. So Albi or Nos2x are used to generate keys. You generate them using a dedicated tool like Rana. That's another alternative way. They say it's early days, so be prepared to get wrecked. So like with anything, when it's early days, early software, there's a lot of people messing around in different ways. There's a lot of ways for it all to break. You can see how snort.social works. So snort.social is another client. There's a web client. It's another one that you can use if you haven't tried Damus, or you want to get a sense for how this works outside of Damus. You can see, again, it's a bunch of messages, but these messages are pulled from various relays, not just a single relay. And if you see here, there's the, here's an example of where relays may operate differently, clients may operate differently than each other. So in this case, we're looking at a profile of Alana Joy, and you can see that there's a way to send sats. So I can send Satoshis to this user, and I'm noticing that at the profile level. But you'll also notice that in snort.social, there's actually a way to send sats to that person because of a specific note. So it's kind of like, remember, notes are kind of like tweets. And we're actually able to just send things directly to that user. Then I will switch back to Damus because that's the big news today was that Damus got approved and is now out of the App Store. Sorry, out of test flight, and it's now in the App Store for everybody to use. You can see sometimes people like to paste GIFs like this. To do that, you actually have to paste that into a third-party place. So I happen to use Nostr.build. And Nostr.build lets me upload an image or a GIF, and then I get a link. And if I paste that link in, then it will render fine. So let's take a look. I'm going to go off right now I'll go to a GIF server. So how about we'll start with Giphy, and we'll choose I'm going to choose a GIF here, and I'm going to download it. Here I'm going to go switch back to my web browser just a second here. Let's do the... So you can see this is Nostr Media Uploader. This is one that I've been using. Whenever you want to share like a image or a GIF on Damus or any other Nostr location, you really have to have a place for it to live. And it doesn't live directly in the client. So if you're accustomed to coming from a place like Twitter, you actually can just pull the content directly, upload it to Twitter as you're creating the tweet. In the case of Damus, you have to upload it to a separate server. And once you've uploaded it to that separate server, then you can go back to Damus and paste a link to that server. And so what I'm going to do now is switch back to Damus. And we chose a picture of an excited kid because we're excited to see Damus in the App Store. Congrats. And we'll do a little party emoji. And we'll do a little rocket. And we'll do a little champagne. And then I'm pasting in this link to nostr.build where I uploaded that GIF that I wanted to share. And now when I post it, you can see that my note shows up and actually has that GIF of excitement attached. It renders as if it's part of it, even though it's actually being hosted on this separate server on nostr.build. What's going on back here? We've got a big note from the Noster report. So this is kind of a daily news thing that we get here, where we get to keep up on what's happening in Nosterland. So what is the daily news? Many new Nostrich hatchlings know the feeling. You open up whatever client you hear about. You figure out that you have to hit the generate key button. You somehow save your private keys in a way that would make Satoshi cry, and you stare at a constantly updating global feed from a bunch of usernames you've never heard of. Now what? That was me. Oops. That one went away. Why did that? Maybe he deleted it? Now, we all bring some Twitter baggage with us to Nostr, and for me, that baggage was not feeling good enough to follow people randomly. Why should I? I'm a nobody, and it's not like they will ever follow me back. But this was a new platform and a new paradigm, so I put that behind me, and I followed Quiet Warrior. To my surprise, he responded to me in the simplest of words, followed #plebchain. Quiet Warrior followed me back. Why would he do that? I have Chungus in my name. Pleb after pleb, I started seeing followed #plebchain over and over again. It was magic. One of Quiet Warrior's first posts, he explained that plebchain was about the concept of value for value. You follow me, I follow you, and let's do it before all the big accounts and bots get here. Little did we all know that this simple concept would blossom into a movement. I reached out to Quiet Warrior to get his take on how this has grown, and here's what he said. It was really one of the forgotten plebs on Twitter. I was really one of the forgotten plebs on Twitter. Our first week on Nostr was like a bird's first flight, absolutely liberating. I've never talked to so many like-minded, beautiful people. There's tremendous power in the community. I wanted to secure that, hence #plebchain. As it progressed, my mind continued absorbing the power that the chain can really provide. Satoshi writes about a peer-to-peer network. What are the peers? Plebchain. In essence, the Bitcoin network is built on the plebchain layer 0. I also wanted anyone coming in fresh to Nostr to have a simple way to connect and secure the same experience I was having. Follow for follow is powerful because when you gain followers, you gain a voice. The algo kills our voice. As I think about Quiet Warrior's words, I can't help think about what pleb chain means to me. It's all about breaking the top-down communication network of Twitter where massive influencers tell you how to think. The pleb chain is a hive mind for good ideas to propagate. Why does Noster and this pleb chain concept resonate so well with Bitcoin? As Robert Breedlove says in his What is Money podcast, in a central bank economy, if prices go up, you don't know if it's Jerome Powell's monetary policy or real people expending real resources to obtain a real asset that caused the price increase. Bitcoin disentangles signal from noise. In a centrally controlled communications protocol, if a message propagates, you don't know if it's the Twitter algorithm or it's real people expending real attention to express a real fact. Noster, and specifically the pleb chain secured with Lightning, disentangles signal from noise. That is what pleb chain means to me. What does pleb chain mean to you, my fellow plebs? And it's written by this hashtag, which I think is Main Street Chungus, if I understand correctly. I'm just going to copy and paste that into the chat. So if you want to follow the author of that, I believe that is how you find that person. There's also the Nostr report itself seems to be publishing or republishing kind of an op-ed, I think. And so I'm going to share the Nostr report pub key here in case you'd like to find and follow the Nostr report. They do kind of a daily roundup of what's happening in Nostr. And they did their daily roundup from an hour ago. You can take a look at it here. Judgment Day, January 30th. Okay, so maybe that was yesterday. I thought they just published this. That's 1 hour ago, but it says Jan 30th. So maybe they're giving the kind of update on what happened yesterday. So DMNYC shares note on the benefits of being algorithm free. I can see what people actually follow are saying right now, not irrelevant stuff some popular account posted a day and a half ago. So Damus is finally approved, so this is very modern because that just happened a few hours ago. I guess Naka Diamond shares concerns over recent Bitcoin block size FUD happening on Twitter. Nostr update, Jiu-Jitsu at Nostr. McShane is looking for like-minded Nostriches to roll with at Nostrica. McShane reports Nostrica signups now total over 500, 176 in-person, 324 virtual. McShane sends a reminder you can add to the Nostrica agenda. So I guess it's a public document. I think I've seen before a public document that was shared. Looks like maybe that's the same one that's being shared here. And then the tech side of things in Noster today. Let's see. So relays. So this user, I think it's not rendering the username and doesn't seem to be clickable for some reason, but I think that's just a Mac OS client issue. Reminds us how relays impact your Nostr experience. Announces he's working on a Nostr relay recommendation app, as well as an app that downloads your history for you. So that could be useful for if you want to create a Nostr history. You want to create a personal relay, it's good to be able to have an archive of everything that you've ever said, and it looks like that's a good way to create that archive. Fiat Joff contributes to the relay conversation by shilling a few of his favorite go-to safer relays. So it sounds like Fiat Joff has an opinion about which relays might be safer. I'm not sure where the safety issue comes from. DTO NON built a service, I believe, it says send Nostr notes over SMS. So SMS to Nostr is a proof of concept allowing people to post notes on Nostr via SMS, including feature phones and IoT devices. Is there a use case for Nostr plus LN over SMS? And he tags Jack and says, does this bring back memories? That's probably because Twitter itself originally started out as an SMS-only app. And so this is kind of a return to SMS only, even though we're well into the world of, websites for navigating Twitter and mobile apps for navigating Twitter. But doing an SMS Nostr is a little bit of a throwback hat tip to Twitter. And I guess there's probably people with feature phones that maybe don't have smartphones or maybe have kind of bandwidth constraints. And so this could be a useful feature to them. Let's see. I notice here Derek Ross announces nosterplebs.com is adding user profiles soon for those registered with their service. Once launched, your profile will be found at nosterplebs.com/username. So it looks like that's going to turn into a way to more easily... Oops. And we lost that. Where did... Uh-oh. A lot of crazy stuff happening here. Well, that was a good recap of the news for the day. I'm still open if there are questions. If you're a new user, just getting onboarded with Noster and or Damas because of all the excitement and activity around Damas, drop by. I'd love to help answer any questions if I can. And I'd love to help make sure that you have a good experience on your first day if you are indeed new to Noster and or new to Damas. Oh, here's the attendance for Costa Rica. So Costa Rica is a Nostr conference that's going to happen in Costa Rica, and it's coming up in, I think it's about mid to late March, if I recall, March 17th, if I recall. There's virtual sessions and in-person sessions. Looks like virtual, there's 527 total responses on the prompt, and 65% virtual, 35% in person. Somehow, it does not like to keep that up. If in person, how many people are you traveling with? So 56% are traveling with 0 people, 29% with 1, and then a quick drop off after that. So probably most people coming alone or in couples, unsurprisingly. Hit me with your questions. I'm here to try to help you. If you're new, I want to help you make sure you get started and have a comfortable first day on Noster and or first day on Damas. Noster bull case expanded upon in the tweet. Consider the fundamental elements of a contract: offer, acceptance, and consideration. Bitcoin enables the final piece, and Nostr allows the first two to take place. Yeah, so are you going to Costa Rica, David? Yes. So, Joe, I am planning to, but I do have to figure out, have a little bit of coordination in other travel that I've got scheduled with my wife, and I need to see if she wants to come or not. She's not a Noster Damas person. She's a little bit more normie, but I think she would probably like to go to Costa Rica. So I'll have to see if she can make the time and if our other kind of travel doesn't get in the way. But it's nice that there's this discussion around Bitcoin. Bitcoin enables the exchange of consideration, but actually, how do you find people that you want to trade with? So the whole messaging, the offer and acceptance is messaging and communication features, and so things can be settled in Bitcoin, but they require some communication coordination, and this Direct Delta user is pointing out that that's actually one of the things that Nostr provides. All right. The exponential wave will have ripples. This could be the killer app for BTC with Lightning built in. I think that's right. That's one of the things that I think is exciting about this is, we've had Bitcoin for well over a decade, but Bitcoin by itself, I think, has struggled in many ways to figure out a use case. And I think there's, both infinite potential use cases, but hasn't had, at least in our kind of Western societies, hasn't had the same kind of burning purpose that it may have in, specific countries or regions where people have experienced hyperinflation firsthand, or where there are other needs around saving. We have, for all of its faults, it's a reasonably mature financial system that we have here in the US. Fortunate to have pretty good financial system, but it has a lot of faults. And so Bitcoin can fix those faults, but they don't feel like a hair on fire problem every day. And so a lot of people, it's relatively easy to ignore. And one of the things that I think is interesting, and I think this is sort of alluding to, it says this could be the killer app for BTC with Lightning built in, is the whole ecosystem around how Nostr works and how Damus works is a bunch of loosely affiliated parties who want to collaborate. Like you want to connect to relays, you want to connect to, you want to connect to other, clients need to connect to relays, and users need to use clients to connect to relays. And there's no client and relay that have a very formal relationship with each other, but they do actually have need to collaborate in that way. And here, lo and behold, we have this technology called Bitcoin, and further this technology called Lightning that lets us do very small payments between uncoordinated parties. That's a big deal, because if you've got clients and relays, you need to be able to pay each other, but you don't have bank details. You may be in different countries. You may be, on different technology stacks. You don't have a common set of payment rails, but you do want to transact. The Nostr protocol and the network surrounding it, and clients like Damus and others can help make the experience easy to transfer value among all those. It's kind of possibly a little bit of user to client and maybe client to relay. So it's kind of a software to software, machine to machine type of interaction that can do kind of properly metering. And I see Jules showed up in chat. Hey, Jules, what is going on? Are you new to Noster and or Damus? The hope was that we would get people here. If there's anybody who had any questions or wanted to try to get a better understanding of how to get on, that my hope was to help people kind of get on and get set up and have a good experience. Oh, wow. William Kasarin. He is the man of the hour of the, feels like it's been a whole month, but he's been just got on Noster today. Well, welcome, Jewel. So William in chat here is the author of Noster. So the author of Damus. Still having to get my head around the difference. But JB55 in the flesh, yes. Congrats on your approval. Seriously, William, we are so happy to see this thing in the App Store, and we thank you for all of your hard work. I mean, I've been aware of it. I think it was originally shared with me last May, and I've been active for over a month now. I use it every day. And it's just, I know how hard it is shipping stuff to Apple and getting Apple to agree. I know you've run into lots of policy issues, and I think it's nice that it's finally worked out. It feels like it's really a, it's a good thing that now the world has this, because it's my favorite client, and I think it's by far the best client that I've seen, and I've dabbled with a bunch of them. And it's really a huge achievement. So thanks for that. Jules is new, just got on Noster today and is already using it more than Twitter. I wonder, are you able to, Jules, have you been able to find your way around okay? And are there people that you're looking for? Are you able to get connected well enough and find all the right people? Because I find that one of the biggest challenges that I've had is, how do you find the right people to connect with? And so one thing I thought we could do here is I could show you a little bit of how you might look around. So you can click on any profile, and I'll give you one in the chat. Actually, let me do this. I'm following JB55. So this is William, who just chimed in the chat. I'm going to share the public key here. So this is William's public key. So if you're in the chat, hop over there and grab William's public key, and you can go ahead and follow him. And if you do that, follow him, then then you can see all the content from him, and you'll see everybody that he's reposting or people he's interacting with, which will help you find other people that you might want to follow or connect with. And so if you look at my username is different than my Nostr, and I won't tell you which. Okay, a little bit of a riddle. So if you go here you can look at, on Will's profile, you can look at the following, and you can see who's Will following, and those are going to be some good candidates that you might want to follow. So a couple, I think I follow 0xTR. Yep. So that might be a good one. Fiat Joff is the creator of the protocol. So William is JB55. He's the creator of the Damus app, which is an iOS app to access Noster. And Fiat Joff is the creator of Noster, which is the protocol around which all of this is running and all of the apps in the ecosystem are running. So I'd recommend giving JB55 a follow, 0xTR, Fiat Joff. I think Ben Ark I appear to be following. So I sort of would go through this list, and you can probably find a bunch of good people that you'd want to follow just by checking this out. Odell, actually, my friend was telling me that he said I should meet Odell. He said that Odell, I think, is in Nashville, if I recall, and I think he runs Bitcoin Park over there, and a pretty famous podcast in the space. But he sounds like he does a lot on Bitcoin and freedom tech in general. So probably a pretty big Nostr user, probably worth a follow there. Obviously, you want to follow the Damas account itself. Phaedrus is a NIM that I know in person. He's a good dude. Worth following. Very smart. Let's see, we got any more questions here? No second best, correct? Jack is better than Elon all day. No nanobots. What about the Noster plebs? Yeah, so follow Noster plebs. Do we have a, let me see if I can find Noster plebs. I mean, there's so many good accounts. I would basically just start with some people like JB55, who I just pasted there. And from there, you can look at who he's following. And that's a pretty good list of people who are active and that you might want to follow. So that's one of the best hacks I would discuss for getting started. And Blockchain is saying, oh yeah, let me actually pull up some of these, because I think if you're just getting started with this, I want to make sure we get you some of the good people. So we'll go over here to Odell. Here's the NPub. That is Odell NPub. I'm going to just share that in the chat, so you can copy that, paste it in your Damus, and follow. Give Odell a follow. And I see Noster Plebs is not an account; it's a NIP05 provider. Yep. If I make a post or reply to a post, and that person isn't following me, will they see it? So if you make a post or reply, you can see the replies in your they'll see the replies in their notifications, depending on how their client works. So one of the things, if you're new to it, you have to keep reminding yourself, because it's hard to remember that this is how it works. But I'm using Damus, and if I go to my notifications in Damus, let's actually start from a home view just to make sure we have it cleaned up. I think some of these views push on top of each other, but all right. I start from a home view. I can click here on the notifs tab, and the notifs on Damus work in a very specific way, but other clients may be able to show you information in different ways. So, most of the notifs that I see are things like when people repost, which is kind of like almost like a retweet, or if people reply to me, then I see that here. But for example, different from Twitter is I don't see if people shaka my posts. So if people like my posts on Twitter, I would see that. If people shaka my posts on Damus, I actually don't see that. And so yeah. So it just depends on which client people are using, what you'll see, if you'll see reposts, if you'll see replies. But if the person who you're replying to uses a client that does allow you to see replies, then that does allow them to see replies, then you'll see the replies that you're making. So it's a good way to connect with somebody. And let's see here. That was it. The person isn't following me. Will they see? Yeah. So that it really depends. It's the semantics of how they choose to do it. Curious why you can't search someone's handle or name. So George, it's a great question. This is one that it's you kind of have to wrap your head around it because it's a little bit of a new world here. And so I would recommend, trying to really wrap your head around what's going on here because it helps you really understand what's new. So if you had a typical social network, you might choose to sign up and you upload a profile picture, super easy. You choose a username, super easy, maybe fill out email, password, whatever, right? And the trade-off that you make when you do that is you push all of that into a central database that the builder of that social network controls. And that means if they don't like you, they can kick you out. Or if they want to push certain content at you, they can do that. You don't really have any voice or exit, so you can't really escape that. You get stuck. And so the point of Nostr, and more broadly, Nostr as a protocol, Damus as a specific client of that, is you want to be able to come on and just by generating a public-private key pair, you have an account. You don't have to upload a photo. You can do that later, but you've got an account with just that. And any client could support that type of account. Now, if you're doing that and you've got Damus, a client over here, and you've got Snort Social over there and Iris.2 over there, it's like, how do you coordinate on creating a username? Like on Twitter, I have the username DKSF. Well, that's because Twitter decides that I'm allowed to have that and nobody else is allowed to have that. But in a more open, decentralized protocol like Damus, you can't, like Noster, there's no central authority to issue those names. And so how do you make sure that if I have DKSF, how do they make sure that you can't have DKSF too? Well, the answer is there's no way. And so if you try to do that, that becomes a centralizing force. And what we're trying to do is get away from the centralizing force. We don't want to be stuck under the thumb of a centralized authority who's going to tell us how we should run our software and who we should be connected to or what algorithms we'll use. We want to have our own ability to do whatever we want to make it a customized experience to work for us. And so there's a thing called NIP05, which is a verification method that was created to sort of solve the username uniqueness problem in a pretty convenient way, which is we already have a domain name system. We have, how domains work on the web. We have how email addresses work. And so if you control a domain on the web, you can use your control of that domain to verify that you control a set of keys. And so the way you do that is you use a public key with a name that's tied to that DNS name. And that then becomes a unique identifier on the network. So it sort of outsources the problem of uniqueness to the domain name servers and the web, how we use it already. I see some other, so just one final note on that, and I'm going to flip back here so that you can see my my profile. I'm going to visit my profile on the Damas app here, and you can see DK at stacker.news. And so stacker.news is one of the NIP05 providers, and it helps people get, it's a unique identifier like a username in one sense that it's unique across the network. DK is not unique, but DK at Stacker News is unique. And if you want to set that up, just go to edit your profile, and you can see my NIP05 verification is DK at Stacker News. and I have to have a relationship with Stacker News where they verify my profile there. And I think Noster Plebs is one of the easiest ones. I like Stacker News, but Noster Plebs I think is a very credible, reasonable source for using that. Yeah, and Semisol was mentioning if you don't have a domain, you can use providers like Noster Plebs. So yeah, it's super easy. And so there was a question I see from Matt, which is, where should you store your profile pic, and can people trace the source of the pic because of privacy concerns? So where should you store? I think you could store wherever you want. I am showing here, I just, out of convenience, I thought it would be easy to just pull down a profile picture from the Twitter, my Twitter profile, and to pull down a banner image from Twitter. So those are both, very simple starting points. The philosophy, it's a little bit off the philosophy though, because the philosophy is you want to be able to control where your image is hosted, and if Twitter doesn't like me, they may take me down. So I might need to change that. So I've chosen a kind of convenient, easy place to do it. But I've also been uploading content to what was it, Nostr.build, and Nostr.build is a media uploader. I don't know if they have any explanation of how long they'll keep content around or sort of what their policies are around that. But this is the one that I was using. Oh, there's an issue if you don't have a domain. Okay, those won't show up on web clients. So I'm not sure, Semisol, if there is a comment about which part doesn't show up. Is that something to do with how the profiles work, or is that something to do with how the other providers work? Because you said, can people trace the source of the pic because of privacy concerns? You can store it anywhere, just strip metadata. So I assume that's, if you have like EXIF data, or if the name of the thing has your home address, you probably don't want to have that hosted there because that can probably be revealed. So don't name your profile picture with your home address or any other kind of personal identifiable information. You want to keep it private, so just you can see it. Or choose something. Oh, don't use Twitter profile pictures. They won't show up on web clients. Oh, I didn't realize that. So I've messed around with web clients. I've mostly been a Damus user, but I've messed around with web clients, and some of them have rendered my profile pic okay, even though I'm on Twitter. But I don't know for sure all the edges of that or where it may fail. So yeah, if you have some information about that, we'd love to hear more about what the problem is there. What goes wrong when you try to use a Twitter profile picture. Welcome to Noster. Here it comes. You can see lots of excitement here. Okay, so not all do. So I guess I was lucky. I think I've used snort.social and iris.2. I thought I saw it working at least on snort.social, but yeah, probably the gold standard would be do it on your own web server. So if you're getting to the more, Twitter disallows embedding images most of the time. Okay, I wasn't aware of that, but I guess that's good to know. So we want to avoid the Twitter style. Semisol, do you have advice then for me? So I don't have my own web server right now. At least I don't want to. I could do static hosting like on GCP or something. But do you have any advice for me to change out from Twitter, like a convenient would using Nostr.build be a good enough place to host my, if I were to take my Twitter image, my Twitter profile pic, download it and re-upload it to Imgur. Okay. So let's do that. So here, what I'm going to do is pop over here to Imgur, and I'm going to, or GitHub Pages. Yeah, GitHub Pages seems like it's kind of the right answer. I have a little bit of messy stuff with my GitHub, and I want to make it super, super noob friendly in case you don't have a GitHub. I don't want to get too far down that path right now. But let me do this. I'm going to flip out here on the, if we go to a screen share, let's see if we screen share. I'm going to duplicate this over to a second screen share, and this one will window share to Google Chrome. All right, so now you can presumably see my Google Chrome okay. And on here, we're visiting Imager right now, so you can see pretty well what that looks like. From Imager, we should be able to upload a photo. Now, I don't have an account here. Do I need an account? No, I can just probably drop something. Paste image or URL. Okay, so we're going to watch me go from a super noob to like a slightly more sophisticated version of a properly decentralized social networking user. So we're going to go here. I'm going to grab this profile picture that I currently am hosting from Twitter, and I'm going to post that link here. Uh-oh, Whale Reef is confused. Please let us know what is confusing. We want to try to add clarity. We want to make this easy. We want to help remove any doubts. So let us know more about where the confusion is, because we want to clean that all up. Okay, so as I believe you can see now, I'm going to just confirm here on my, okay, so this is my ugly face. I'm on, I've uploaded from my, from Twitter profile pic to Imager. From here, I can copy a link, and I don't know what the difference is between grab link and copy link. I guess grab link lets you copy a link. And now I'm going to go back into the Damus client, and let's do this. Let's flip from there to the Damus client is here. Let's see. I'm still getting my live streaming setup right. So I can flip back and forth between the website. No, it's going to be one or the other. Okay, so in the Damus client now we can paste a profile pic for that Imager address. And is there a save? Yeah, there's a save at the bottom. So we'll save. And it looks like it's going to go probably unknown for a second. And let's see if that comes back. It's probably trying to pull it down. Might be cached with an unrecognizable one. Maybe Imager doesn't want to serve it. I'm just going to make sure that that link I pasted. Ooh. My guess is it's loading that whole website link and not just a link to the photo. Is that what's going on here? Because it's kind of giving me the default empty profile, whereas it used to show my actual profile. Okay, we need another explanation of the NIP05 verification. I agree, it's a little bit of a weird thing. So we'll get to talking about that a little bit more. So what am I doing here? I am trying to paste a link to this thing from Imager, and I copy a link, and I'm going to go to my Damus client. I'm going to make sure it's not just some refresh thing, that it actually is. I think it is failing because I think Imager is serving up this whole Imager website experience instead of just the image. So let me see if I pasted that one. Did that help? That did not seem to help, but I'm never fully convinced because maybe it's cached or maybe it needs to get refreshed somehow. That is not looking good though. I'm going to guess it's actually failing. So I know that I was going to try to help with this, but I appear to be confused on how to get this thing to work myself. Any experts in the crowd? Right-click Twitter's profile pic, copy address, done. Well, that's what I was doing, and I thought the idea here was that was that Twitter won't always serve your image directly from their page to some other web client. So I tried to take some advice here and do it a little bit of a fancier way via Imager, but that has not worked for me. So I'm a little bit stuck. I don't know if I'm gonna get that to work. So I wonder if I were to try, okay, I'm gonna try this one. I bet that doesn't work, right? I'm not even sharing the right thing anymore. Okay. I'm going to take my Twitter profile picture. We'll eventually get this thing to work. Just got to wrestle it down. Okay. How about copy the image address from Twitter. And now I'm going to go back to, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try it on Nostr.build, because Nostr.build seems to be fairly reliable at doing this. And I think it's going to be simpler than, Imager has probably all the rest of the web Chrome, I think, is getting in the way there. So I'm not an Imager expert. I don't really know how that's set up, but it probably, okay. So that actually looked pretty good. That kind of got us where we were trying to be. So let's do this. We've got Damus over here. Let's see if we can real time grab a Mac OS screen capture, and we'll do a window capture of Chrome. Okay. So now we've got Damus up and we've got Chrome up. We're looking at both of these. Now, let's play around. I know there's a lot of questions people are asking about how, let's see, is NIP verification the way to go with the purple check? It worked off Twitter. What I'm going to do is pop this into its own thing so that we don't bother everybody with all the details of what's going on in my let's see, Nostr.build media uploader. Okay, that's the one we'll use. So I'm going to show you how I did my NIP 5. So I use this site called stacker.news. And actually, you can see here. All right, somebody sent me 69 sats an hour ago. I wonder if that was one of my early live stream joiners. So thank you for that. What I was going to show, though, is how the NIP 5 stuff works. So let us see if we have, I'm trying to remember exactly, I think it's in settings. Is it settings? Yeah, okay. So here's an example of a provider. I have an account on this service called stacker.news. It's kind of like a Hacker News for, for kind of Bitcoin-centric topics. And stacker.news is is a NIP 05 provider. And what that means is I can use them to create a username that can show up in my profile. So if you look in Damus, it says DK stacker.news. And so you can see then in stacker.news, I set up an account. I am DK on their network. That's a separate network. It's not a Nostr thing. And I can go into settings on Stacker News, and then I can go down to this section here called Noster NIP 05. And NIP 05, NIP stands for Noster, I always get it wrong. Is it Noster Implementation Possibilities, which is different than Bitcoin Improvement Proposals. But they try to trick us. It's like somebody's trolling us. I think Fiat Jaffa is trolling us all. But what's happening here is you can see Noster section here, NIP 05, there's a pub key. So I can paste a pub key in here, and I can list relays, which I guess are optional. I didn't realize that there was a relay feature related to this. And when I do that, that turns my NIP05 verification on. And one thing you want to watch is the pub key. There actually is this pub key issue that I'm still learning about, but I think I kind of get what's going on, which is on Nostr, you'll see npub1. A pub key always begins with npub1. And this is a slightly different address. I think the npub1 is designed to help you realize if it's a public key, or it'll say nsec if it's a secret key. And the public key here is gone through a transformation. I think is it a Beck32 address or something? I don't know. But you need to use a transformed address, so not the one that you get natively from the Nostr client pub key. So there's the Nostr client pub key here, but I think I took it through a translation layer. And if anybody knows for sure exactly what that is or how that works, please do chime in. I'm trying to remember what I did, and it's not top of mind for me right now. But I can do you know what I can do is I will do a demo of this other tool I saw, which may help us get a better answer on this. There was this tool called Nostr that we were playing with the other day. And here, when you generate a key, like let's say we want fam to be in the key, we'll actually generate a key, and it will generate an npub key that has that character string fam that I requested, an nsec key. So don't anybody use this, but this is like a secret key that you could use as an account. So this is a public-private key pair that you could use as an account, or they're the npub nsec, and I think they correspond to this public key, this private key, and I think there's a way to translate between npubs and public keys and nsecs and private keys, and I don't remember how I did that. But if anybody remembers how that is, but the short of it is, this public key is the public key that corresponds to my npub. Paste that into Stacker News, and then when I save it, then I can go on here and I can represent myself. I can tell Damus that my NIP05 verification lives at this specific location, which is DK at Stacker News. Then Damus will go out to Stacker News and confirm that I am verified, and the verification is relatively easy. Stacker News has I think it's in the zone file. They because I've requested the Stacker News do this for me, they have a way to do this with a DNS config. And when they do that, it shows up nicely in the Damus client as DK with a purple checkmark stacker.news. And I think if you navigate here from any other, let's go to like snort.social. If you were to look at this, you see that I am also NIP verified here. So this is using the domain name of stacker.news for uniqueness. So in effect, Nostr doesn't solve for uniqueness of usernames. They sort of outsource that problem to the domain name system that we already have, for a long time been using for uniqueness. And you get a special mailbox type experience at that location. So that is how that part of it goes along, but I still find it a little bit unsatisfying to not know how to do that translation. How are you using Damus on desktop? So there is a Damus app on desktop. I downloaded it in test flight a while back. I'm not sure sort of if that got approved as well today too, because I think they usually get bundled in the same account, same binary. But let me check. Is there iOS, Mac, Damus? Do we have that yet? There's a Damus test flight. I would guess if you open this link, view in Mac App Store. And is that showing on the stream right now? Yeah. So I'm going to just share the link out on the stream. Oops. The link didn't copy. I believe this should do it, but let me, give that a try. I think that should work. If that doesn't work, that may be a link to the test flight of Mac App Store, and you might need to get the regular one and not just the Mac App Store one. Sorry, not the test flight for the Mac App Store, but you might need the production. Might be a link for the production version in the Mac App Store. That is, I find it convenient to be able to switch. I'm just faster at typing on my computer keyboard, so I often, for doing a demo like this, I thought I would demo it from the Mac App Store version that I have. I assume that I'll hit, the same time. So that is what's going on. What else? What else are you guys playing with, or what? Any other questions, or anywhere else that I can help as you're sort of new to experience Damus? Happy to chime in or try to walk through something. Even if I don't know, I can. I don't mind looking a little silly and trying to figure it out on the fly. So just let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see if we can get through it together. And if not, I can do some reading. Just got started on Nostr. One thing I like doing is when I see, so here's some random user 2 days ago, just getting started. I often like to go in here and just like say nice things to welcome people. Welcome to your new home on the internet. So that people feel warm, welcome. They feel like there's other people on the side of it. It's not just some bots or weird dark avatars, but there's actually real people. So I like to sometimes chime in and try to be welcoming to people. And you can just hit over here, first post. So these are new people. Welcome to Noster. Remember, if you're new, you might not have this in your mind, but these people are using Nostr. They may or may not be using Damus. We don't know. A lot of them are probably using Damus because Damus just got in the App Store and it's having a bit of a moment as everybody's getting a chance to play with it for the first time. There's been a lot of pent-up demand. So I like to write this. We'll do a shaka. We'll give them a purple heart. So it's a nice way to welcome people, make sure that everybody understands that they're welcome here. Here's somebody, they're calling their account Binance. I don't know if they're the real Binance. I'm guessing they're probably not. But I'm going to say all are welcome here because Nostr is for everybody. Nostr is not partisan. You may not like Binance. I may not like Binance. It doesn't matter if I do or I don't. What matters is that they can speak freely. It's really the whole point of this is to make sure that everybody is allowed to speak. Doesn't necessarily mean everybody's going to be heard by everybody they want to be heard from, but everybody should be allowed to speak and say what they want and have it transmitted and available for anybody else who wants to see it or read it or engage with it if they want. But it's totally up to the receivers of the message who they want to tune into. I've noticed there's some questions here. So Matt says, what about the wallet function? Yeah, it's a good one. So very, very cool feature of Damus is that it's good to understand that Noster and Damus are separate, and Noster does not really have a view on Bitcoin. But Damus is an app, and it does choose to have that view. And the view is kind of the wallet function. So we'll talk about that. So Nostr is agnostic to what kinds of messages you send or who you communicate with. if you wanted to, download a client that lets you, use US dollars to pay people, you could do that. I don't know if anybody's built such an app. It seems kind of like a hassle to build that, but probably could be done. But this Damus client was built by a gentleman named William, and his handle is at JB55. So you might hear him called JB55 a bunch. And he is a Bitcoin core dev. He had built a lot of stuff in Bitcoin, I think, starting a long time back, maybe 10 years ago or something, if I recall correctly. But he's been active and contributing to Bitcoin for a long time. So he's the author of Damus, and he wanted to find new ways to play with Bitcoin in Damus. And one of those things is this, what I think you're calling the wallet function, which is I can set up and use any wallet that I prefer. And so I accept Bitcoin Lightning tips at this address, dk@StackerNews, which happens to be the same as my NIP05 verification. So I do dk@StackerNews is where you can send me a tip if you want. And that means if you visit the profile of somebody who has that kind of connection, then you'll see this little Lightning thing. And what that means is you can actually use the Lightning network to tip somebody, and they can receive it into any wallet they want, but the wallet is not on Damus. So good to note these differences, because again, it's kind of a tricky thing to get your head around. But this Lightning thing says, send it to me wherever I want to receive it, not on Damus. And I've chosen to receive mine at Stacker News. And so I briefly showed you Stacker News, and in my account on Stacker News, when people send me sats, they show up there. That's the wallet I choose to use. But you can send it from any wallet you want. So if I tap that, you can see an invoice. You can see different wallets that can be chosen. These are all a bunch of fairly popular Lightning wallets. I've used Moon, Blue Wallet, Wallet of Satoshi. There's some differences. There's some trade-offs for each of them, but all of the ones listed here are pretty high quality and popular to use, so I wouldn't be too worried about it, just for small amounts of money. But if you go to, let's pop over here, you can look at this user. They just joined 5 minutes ago, or they just made their first post 5 minutes ago. You can see that they don't have a Lightning. So there's no way I can send them a tip. And that's because they haven't configured that field yet. That's probably because they're new. So they're new, so we'll just say, welcome. Hope you find it fun here. And I'll say, your new home is looking good. And I'm going to give them a little shaka. I'm going to give them a little purple heart. That's just a way to help them, again, feel welcome and help people get kind of used to the fact that there's people on the other side of this. But if we look around, there's probably some people who do have, so I'm looking for one. This guy doesn't have the Lightning, but let's see if I go to my home feed, I bet that a lot of the people that I'm following do have it. So NVK is a popular user. I'd recommend following him. I'm going to drop his pub key in the chat here. That's NVK's pub key. So go ahead, copy that into your Damus client and go give him a follow. But you can see here, the Lightning thing does show up by his account because he has it connected. Or Jack, this is Jack Dorsey. He has Lightning, and you could tip him right now, and I think he has it connected to Cash App. It just happens to be that he's both using Cash App to receive Lightning tips as well as for NIP5 verification, but those don't have to be the same. You can send your Lightning tips to a different place that's not connected to your NIP5, and your Lightning wallet can be in different places, but we happen to often use them in the same places. Here's nosterplebs.com does not allow name squatting. So this is Derek, who I think was in the chat a little bit ago. I don't know if he's still here, but Derek is, again, talking about nosterplebs.com, which is a website you can go to do that kind of NIP5 verification. name versus username. What is that a question about sort of how the NIP5 stuff works? Because we did talk a little bit about the NIP5 stuff. If there's other questions or other uncertainties, we can go dig in and try to learn more about that and get some final bits of that last question answered. How can I search for username that I'm not following? Search only finds my follows. Oh, so J Sibley Tube has this question. How can I search for username? So if you're using Damus, I believe the only way to search while tagging, it will only surface people who are following you or who you could tag, I think. But if you just want to search for any username, I think it doesn't currently do it by name, but let me check. If we search for JB55, oh, it does. Okay. No, that's Enigma. Okay. So we just searched for JB55. So just hit this little search icon. And I think, actually, I should have done this in mobile, but I'll pull up. Yeah, in mobile, it's the same. So pull up the search icon. You can type JB55. I wonder if you do DK, you can find me. If you search for Jack, you can find Jack. And then you can just tap through and follow people. So it makes it very easy to get connected to people. You don't have to necessarily know, over time, probably less and less you have to deal with npubs, and you can just go directly to, directly to following people, in a more comfortable traditional way of, search for username or find a discovery service and click follow on somebody's account. Damus, unique social platform of all. Yeah, it's pretty different. Pretty different. J Sibley Tube sent me 1,000 sats. Thank you, J Sibley Tube. I hope that we got your question answered a little bit, but in case we didn't, please do let me know if there's other stuff. And like I said, I'm just a fan of everything going on in this ecosystem. I've been making live streams, making videos, writing about it, trying to help explain it, but all the hard work, and the credit for that goes to William Kasarin and Fiatjov and, a bunch of people who've been contributing to the Nostr protocol and the Damus, the client. And today's obviously a big day because, Damus is now in the wild and everybody can download it. I've heard that the servers are just absolutely melting. That anybody who runs relays are seeing like 10x the traffic. Wave Lake, welcome. Thank you for the nod. Wave Lake, we were talking about you on our live stream with Max yesterday. Actually, we were live streaming and talking about sort of the Nostr news because we run a show that we've done a couple of them now in the last week or two. Last week, I guess it's been. We've done 2 of those, and they've been super fun. So we're going to do a lot more Nostr news shows. And on our last Nostr news show, we mentioned Wave Lake. Actually, we might have mentioned it on each of our last 2 shows. So maybe Wave Lake will be mentioned on every show. We'll see. I know Max is I think a friend of Wave Lake and maybe an investor in the company, if I understand correctly. Stay tuned. Follow, subscribe on YouTube if you wanted to keep in touch with the latest live streams. We're going to be live streaming news, what we're learning about Nostr, what we're finding out about the ecosystem. If you haven't been playing with it yet, or if you're interested for more about the ecosystem, one resource I would recommend taking a look at is, and I always have a tough time getting these things. I'm still working my way around live streaming. Let me pop over to Safari here. Okay, you can see my Safari. And let's see. Okay, I'm going to pop over to this one. And I was going to show you Nostr.band. So this is one of my favorite sites for getting, it's fairly real-time stats about what's going on at Nostr. And so if you're kind of new to Nostr and trying to understand how the ecosystem works, you might want to poke around here because you can get a sense of how some people some people are using like what kinds of people you might want to follow. They've got a bunch of good people to follow. You can get a view of posts, more about links, hashtags. And then the really cool thing here is they have Nostr stats. So let's take a look. These are fairly real-time stats. Now, I think, if I recall correctly, this is resetting every night at, I think it's midnight GMT. So basically, we've just started the day. So probably, my guess, this is like a partial day. You can see that we had a little bit of a red spike and blue spike. Red is daily public keys writing events, but those don't necessarily, we don't know if those are quality or they're bots. They could be, there could be a lot of passerbys, flybys, bots, spam, you don't know. But blues have a little bit of a higher quality signal. I think they become blue if they've uploaded a profile photo. So that gives a little bit more clarity that this is something real and this is not just like some spammer. But you can see that was yesterday. So for January 31st, we're calling that yesterday, given that we crossed GMT midnight already. Yesterday was 3154 public keys writings. That means 3154 user accounts that maybe created a node or did some write event that was, from a quality account. And so we're just at the beginning of the day. What are we in GMT? What is the time GMT right now? 2:33. So we're 2.5 hours in, I think, to this day, and we're already 924 high quality public keys. That's got, effectively, effectively the whole day still ahead of it. So almost certainly I'm going to guess that this 3154 of blue will be beaten by the Feb 1st GMT date. And let's poke around here a little bit. You can see these are sort of some of the ebbs and flows as like, I think this was, Jack started sharing right around here, and then that kind of brought on some people, and then it kind of, there's some, very active but kind of smaller groups. And then this, I think, is when Snowden came on, and that is kind of a big moment. And so that had some spiky stuff, and then it kind of settles down. And then here we are today with, this is Damus hits the App Store. And so that looks like a big day. And I think but it's only a partial day because it was near the end of the day GMT. So I think by the time we look at this tomorrow, we're going to see probably this, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if this is our biggest profile with bio new user day that we've seen so far. So maybe one of the highs was December 20th with almost 9,000. And then again, December 24th with almost 9,000. And then kind of the partial day here was at almost 6,000. So I think a full day with Damas iOS app in the App Store, I think we'll probably cross to our highest new users with profiles day. So maybe we'll hit 9,000 or more, maybe 10,000, maybe more. I don't know. But it's exciting to be here at this moment watching this. It almost feels like it's, kind of a historic, momentous event as we now have like our first really great mobile native client in the App Store. And you can see sort of the mounting number of posts, reactions. This is kind 7 is a reaction. That's I think in the Nostr protocol you can specify I think what kind of reaction. A shaka is a kind, so I assume that shaka is maybe kind 7 because that's what I think Damus is sending, though people can send all kinds of different types. But I think we did hit maybe an all-time high day on kind 7 reactions, which I think is probably due to the Damus moment, and probably blow through that tomorrow, I'm guessing. And more of these total events published. So, it's exciting. It's exciting to be kind of around in this time when all this crazy stuff is happening and we get to experience it firsthand. Let's see. Heard Flux is hosting relays. Shouldn't that help? Yeah, I don't know too much about Flux. But yeah, I think there's a lot of different people hosting relays, and hopefully the relays are not melting too much. I think NVK mentioned that his relay was a 10x increase in kind of usage compared to its normal. So wouldn't surprise me if, relay operators are mostly hobbyists who, are kind of down for the cause, curious about the technology, want to help out, but they're not really super professional organizations. They're not, for the most part, not very commercial, don't accept payments yet. So I think we're sort of, early days of this stuff. We're not going to have it all worked out right now. But a lot of people are playing with relays, and probably they just don't have enough bandwidth, compute, storage, the infrastructure, maybe the threading models of how the relay was written is not super sophisticated, because it's all been very low key and hobbyist so far, and probably still will be for a while. But it's like the ecosystem has to come together bit by bit, and we sort of need we just need to keep showing up every day and learning together and having fun. And if we keep it that, then I think good things will happen. We'll get to keep playing with the technology and give the technology breathe in enough oxygen and life so that the technology has a real chance to exist and to live on. So I'm excited for the future of helping Nostr. I want to see Nostr succeed, and I think that Damus is probably the best user experience on Damus. And so the ability for anybody to now have access to this technology and be able to use it without too many bumps and learning curves. There's a little bit to learn, but I hope that we can over time both make it easier to learn, an easier user experience, and get more educational content out there so that more people can learn about Nostr and Damus, and more people can kind of understand a new model of how publishing works on the web and on the internet, and that we have a lot more freedom, a lot less censorship, a lot more choice and algorithms that we choose to help surface the best people and content to our lives, and help us have our own ability to express when we don't like what is being served to us. So if people want to serve us stuff and it's not necessarily in our interest, it's nice if we can remove, like it's in Twitter's interest to have us engaged so that they can serve us ads. But that's really in service of Twitter and Twitter's business. That's not in service of us as the users of Twitter. And so I think this new future where we have Nostr as a protocol and we have Damus as a client that helps us use that protocol, I think that's going to give us the ability to have a more transparency in the algorithms we choose to use. And if the algorithms are not serving us, we can swap them out to algorithms that do serve us. So it creates competition among people who are trying to produce, who are trying to create algorithms. And so the competition should give users more choice, give users more of what they want. And so, it's an exciting future. Can't wait for it. It's been fun to hang out here for, I guess, an hour and a half or so. And we got to walk through some of the core features of Damus. I stumbled a little bit. I'm still figuring out some of the details myself. So thanks for your patience. And I hope that we get to do more of this. And again, hit me if you've got any questions or ideas about stuff that you'd like to learn more about, or that we should try to do tutorials or learnings together. I'll just share my public key there in the chat. So yeah, go ahead, give me a follow. I'll follow you back and say hi. And we'll catch you again. Nostr news should be doing maybe every few days, at least once a week. So subscribe on the YouTube channel here if you want to keep up with the latest in Nostr news. We're doing a live news show, live stream. Me and Max Webster. Max is an OG kind of investor in Bitcoin-centric companies. He's a Bitcoiner and invests in companies that are building out the ecosystem to help make Bitcoin successful faster. And I think Nostr is going to be a big accelerant there. So we're excited to keep those streams coming, and we're excited to oh yeah, and it took me way too long to figure it out. Zoskoda is saying, but Nostr Damus is a little bit of a joke. I think William is a little bit, it's like the protocol is called Nostr, so he wanted to build an app called Damas, so Nostr Damus. All right. And with that, I will see you all later. Thanks so much for coming, and we'll catch you on a live stream soon.